Game started.
Alessandro from Brazil, right? E4, well, let's try the Sicilian again. And the immediate C4, unusual move, but setting up the Roxy bind right away. Let's see, let's bring the knight out to cover the cover the E5 square, and then I'll play my other knight out to hit the pawn. So he defended, which is more like an English opening than a Sicilian. He's attacking the pawn. I'm going to support it with the B pawn so I can fianchetto my bishop. And he's going to try and get a knight on this strong square here. But I can play, in this configuration, I can play E6 and just keep the knight out of there. Okay, he goes on with F4. Let's develop the bishop. Maybe he's going to play F5 or maybe E5. It's not clear right now, but both are possible. And what do I want to do? It would make sense to strike in the center sometime with the D5. Right now, though, pawn takes, pawn takes, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes. Yeah, I can take back with the queen. So I could play D5 right here. And if he ignores it, he might push on with E5. I have a square for the knight. The knight could go to D7. Let's go ahead and play this. He needs to do something about it because I do have a threat of D4, forking his pieces there. And if everything trades off on D5, he's left with an isolated D-pawn, which is somewhat backwards. Should be okay. So I think his most dangerous move here for me is to just push on with E5. And if he does that, I may have to move the knight first. I don't think I have time for... So E5, D4, he takes my knight, I take his bishop, he takes my bishop, so he gets two pieces and I only get one. So I have to move the knight. Okay, but he's going to think about it. Let's see if he's still connected. I'm still connected. Oh, there he goes. Okay. So, okay, that's a lag. That's annoying. Because they spent a minute. I mean, I had to waste a minute waiting for him to move, and then he only spent a few seconds on it. So I can go with knight to G4, I guess, because it's hitting the bishop. Bishop retreats, but the knight has no good square from G4. That's, well, knight G4 to H3 to F5. It could then get trapped. Okay, so let's just drop back here and hope that his connection improves. There, he moved that more quickly. Okay, so let's castle. I'm going to attack the center with the move F6. And it's useful to have the... oh, I left my pawn undefended. Yeah, I got distracted there. And he can grab the bishop with check, so I don't have time for any clever moves like knight takes E5 here. Yeah, it just doesn't work. Yeah, there's no good square for the bishop either. Okay, well, let's attack his knight anyway. Can't let it sit there.
Check.
And maybe I'll go after his backwards d pawn. Maybe there's some mileage in that. And there's also the idea of going after the center. Now that my queen is on the e file, it's possible to play f6. Thought about playing it earlier, but he just had the move d6, which would have been very annoying. But now I could exchange out and leave him with this kind of isolated e pawn too. Okay, so he traded off that one. Got rid of one weakness. And then my idea was to take here. If he takes with the bishop, I'll take with a knight, and that's a double attack on his queen and this knight, so he can't do that. He has to take with the knight. And then I can still take with the knight. I can take with the pawn, right? So that's kind of what I wanted. Get that isolated pawn there. Now I could I guess win the pawn back right now, right? Bishop takes knight, eliminates one defender, and then I have knight takes pawn. So let's do that. It's better to get rid of the weak pawn than to let it persist and become a problem later, maybe. Maybe that's the case here, I don't know. But he still has an advantage. He has two knights against, two bishops against two knights. But I do have this annoying pin on his bishop. Maybe that's worth something. Let's see if he can come up with something. My king is vulnerable to a check. My bishop and rook are vulnerable to tactics along this diagonal. What does white really do in this position? His bishop is not loose, but I will probably just take the bishop on f3 there. If I am given a move here, which he's giving me a move. Take on f3, probably rook takes. Rook takes, pawn takes, because his queen is needed to defend the bishop. So
check.
This will create some structural damage. And he no longer has the bishop pair. He has only one bishop. And he has active pieces. So queen here, check.
Check.
He can't block with the bishop. Oh, well, I'm sorry. He needs to move his king. And then queen here is a double attack on his pawn and his bishop, so taking advantage of the weak pawns around his king. My knight's out of play. If I have a few moves here, I would probably like to get that into action. But if I can win a piece, that's more important than getting his pawn into action. So what's he going to do? Can he defend the bishop? Actually, it's hard to defend the bishop. He can't defend it with the rook because of the knight. And yeah, I guess there was no good way to defend it. So rook takes bishop. He does have rook here. Maybe queen takes bishop is simplest. Right. Okay, so now it would be good to get the knight in the game. I could also just trade off queens here. Yeah, I probably should. He can activate his queen by coming to e2, e7 rather. Okay.
Check.
So this should be pretty simple then. Just king to f7 here, guarding the entry squares on the e file, and then bring my knight over to attack some of his pawns. I don't think there's any way he can really hold this. So using the rook and the knight together to go after these queenside pawns. Where's the best square for the knight? Maybe here. Getting tricky here. I'll just bring it around to a defensive position. I was thinking knight here, and I could play check and win this pawn, but he has moves he could play there.
White resigns.
Okay, not too soon. I'm sure I was completely winning there. So we will take a look at that in the post-mortem, though. It was kind of an interesting opening. We'll see if I should have done something different and what's the proper response against that early c4. So see you guys later. Bye.